And we're live. Oh,
Hey, for the few people who don't know who I am, I'm Lapis, and I'm very happy to be here with my good friend Rin.
yeah. There's an echo. Is Where's the echo coming from? Do you have the video open on the tab?
That's right, I can see everything. And I sent the tweet, so people should be coming in as they go. Sorry, that was a bit confused. Anyway, so would you like to introduce the audience to what we're talking about today, Rin?
Yeah. But there's an echo. Where's the echo coming from?
The echo? Do
Mm-hmm.
you still hear it?
Wait a minute. No, I don't hear the echo anymore. But it's like I don't want to hear an echo of my own voice. Um.
It does
Anyway,
sound a little weird and unsettling. I understand. I always hate echoes.
yeah, okay, so this is kind of like we already did wage theft in Australia, and it's like I want there's more to say, there's more to say because I mean, it's not like they fixed the problem. And so it's kind of like I, covered one we already covered wage theft across the shore before, but I got some, more information on it. And I should probably give a shout out to the person who sent me the article, because he'll probably be rude to talk about it without without giving credit where credit is due. Because without him, I even know wouldn't have even known about it. Hold on. Let me just put him on screen.
Hmm.
All right. Okay, so I received the article from Usual Suspects, and it's like I like it when somebody, sends me articles for me to read. I mean, I really appreciate it because it's kind of like you're saying that you admire and respect my opinion. So first, I'd like to give a shout out and a very special thanks to Usual Suspect for sending me the article in the first place.
Yeah, thank you at the usual suspect. A little bit later into the column, I might add them under the link where the video's been posted. So maybe they can check out the video for themselves because we really do appreciate you sending us articles to take a look at because we're very interested in issues like this.
Yeah, I mean, I do like reading about the issues that goes on, because it's kind of like, he really helped me, like, because it's kind of like, it's the very first time I ever heard of wage theft, and then it's like, that has actually happened to me here in
Hmm.
America, and it's like, wow, and it's like, I've went for years never ever hearing of wage theft. And
Yeah.
it's like, wow, that's what happened to me. And
Hmm.
before I just accepted it, like
Yeah.
when I didn't get paid, I just accepted it. And it's like,
Hmm.
wow, I don't need to just accept it. I don't need to go and look at it and go, that's a part of life. And so he really opened my eyes.
Yeah. Um, and I think that there's a lot of experiences like that where if we don't have a certain kind of knowledge or understanding, it's difficult to put them in the right context. You sort of think, oh, this is just something weird that's happening at my workplace. Maybe it's just a problem with this one boss. But then if you do a bit of research, sometimes these things go deeper.
Yeah, I never heard of wage theft. So it's like when I didn't get paid or when other people didn't get paid, we just kind of accepted it. I mean, we were angry. We were angry and we would take to social media. There would be workers taking to social media, but there was no wage there, there's no definition. There's no way to go like this is illegal. There's no way to go this shouldn't be happening. So it's kind of like while we're angry, it's like, oh, this must be normal, and this is just something that goes on. This just happens, and it's like, what? It's not normal, and I shouldn't just accept it. I shouldn't, get angry on social media, then continue my day-to-day life. I need to fight back.
Mm. Yeah. And I think we have a responsibility to use whatever platforms we have in order to do that. So this week, we're looking at wage theft in Australia. And we looked at it a little last week as well, but it seems like this story has more layers, just like Shrek.
Yeah. When Victoria became the first state to criminalize wage theft in June 2020, that's a long time to take when you really think about it. Like it
Mhm.
took 2020 for it to become criminalized. Um,
Yeah, like all of this time in Australia, apparently wage theft was legal. And
It was seen as a big step forward in the fight against systemic underpayments of wages in Australia. Queensland followed, and in December, the federal government promised criminal penalties for wage theft as part of its industrial relations reform. Fast forward to today, and a little seems to change. The Fair Work Ombudsman continues to issue press releases like confetti, outing companies every few days for questionable workplace practices. In the past month alone, 10 security businesses, um, ch- chat time bubble tea, restaurants, medical centers, a toy retailer, and an IT services business have been pinged by the regulator for shortchanging workers. The latest, um, the latest was on Friday, where disability service provider and registered charity Breakthrough entered an enforceable undertaking with the regulator and is backpaying more than 600 current and former employees over 2.7 million after self-reporting itself last year. I receive emails and phone calls every week with tip-offs about companies doing the wrong thing. The latest one involves one of the most dangerous areas of the
bless you.
thank you, but I was coughing. Um, of the road transports industry, tip truck drivers. The sector was overhauled in Victoria in August 2018 after a spate of deaths due to safety issues stemming from drivers cutting. Yeah, I'm not surprised. Safety, I wanted to touch on this. Safety issues stemming from drivers cutting corners with maintenance because they weren't being paid enough. You know what? I have experienced something like that in America because I have done security before,
Hmm.
and it's kind of like when you're not getting paid enough, like it's kind of like when you're overworked and you're underpaid. You don't, what's it's like that old saying, you get what you paid for. You
Yeah.
know,
Hmm.
you
I
know, like
mean,
you don't really go all out. It's kind of like there are plenty of security guards that don't do what they're supposed to be doing. Like
mhm,
it's kind of like if your job is to check trunks of vehicles, you're like, I'm
yeah.
not gonna do any of that. You're kind of go like, I'm gonna just stay in the guard shack and just stay in my cell phone because it's kind of like, it's kind of like the money ain't worth it. You get paid so little
Hmm.
that you don't care because you get paid so little, and then sometimes you get cheated out of pay. It's like,
Hmm.
wait a minute, you're cheating me out of pay. So not only it's 950, not much, but it's like you cheated me out of my overtime pay. And then it's kind
Hmm.
of, like that is what anchors countless, security guards. It's when they're
Hmm.
cheated out of their overtime pay. It's like when you work two shifts, but you
Yeah.
only get paid for one shift.
I mean, when your bosses are stealing from you, why should you do your job of protecting their stuff? Why should you prevent people from stealing from them?
Yeah, well, security is weird because it's kind of like we go to the same place every day, but there is that middleman. Like you
Yeah,
don't work for whom you go to every single day. You work for the middleman. So it's kind of like I do think, whenever there's the middleman, there's always going to be corruption.
absolutely. I think if you like all sorts of instances of corruption I see is like there's we got to pay the middleman. We don't actually produce anything, but we're going to charge you a lot to buy the services that we bought from someone else. That's how we must make our money. There's so many inefficiencies like that.
Yeah, and it's kind of like if I go to, for the sake of example, let's say I go to Walmart's every day. It's like I would rather get hired through Walmart.com, and let's make up a security firm. Let's just say ABC Security.
Hmm.
It's like instead of working through ABC Security, I would rather be like, yeah, I am a Walmart employee because it's like I go there every single day. It would make more sense for me to be a Walmart employee than an ABC employee. But I think this is where a lot of the corruption comes in.
Yeah. When you have these whenever there's things that become inscrutable, whenever there is areas in the world where there is no light, where there is no um I don't want to say accountability, but visibility, transparency, that's when you're going to see corruption start emerging. um
Yeah, you're right. I totally and completely agree with you.
all right.
Um,
So the latest was on Friday. Where were we here? The policy changes included a minimum mandatory hourly rate of pay for the various types of trucks. For instance, tandem tip trucks, two axle tipper trucks would be paid $88 an hour for removing soil or rock from excavation work on government infrastructure projects. That's a very generous wage, but I guess they aren't really driving that far. Um, but it seems underpayment continues, and at least one plant hire group is being accused of exploiting a loophole to win contracts by setting up a services club that charges drivers by the hour. The Victorian Tippers United, which is an association of owner drivers along with workers in one of the biggest plant hire companies in the market, are worried it will put pressure on companies to cut hourly rates to maintain competitive and win tenders. The Subcontractor Services Club, set up by one of the biggest plant hire companies, is pitched as voluntary, with the benefits including priority work. You will be given priority on all major projects, and the services will only be charged an hourly basis of $6.38 in proportion to the work you do, one contract says. Um, I feel like there's a lot of this going around in the marketplace of, oh yeah, you don't need a union, you don't need any of this. Oh, you're like you're not a worker even, you're like a personal contractor, you know?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, yeah. It's kind of like, the same crap goes with security where you're not a worker, you're a contractor. And that's what they
Hmm.
use to, overwork you and underpay you. And it's kind of like you have to work even in severe weather.
Hmm.
It's kind of like, there were like four tornadoes coming through my state. But even though there were like four tornadoes coming through my state, I was still, pressured into going to work.
Yeah, because that's exactly the time when all of the people are going to try to pull a heist. right in the middle of a tornado.
It's like, yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, like if people are going to steal, they're going to steal through a tornado. Like, I mean, come on now. Like, like I would think that even criminals who want to stay safe.
A more sensible thing would be that they would try to steal after a tornado because they'd think, oh, protections aren't in place because something just happened. Now's our chance. You do sometimes see that, but during a tornado,
Yeah, it's kind of before tornadoes are coming through. Listen, you need to come. Like, please, you gotta come. You gotta come. And it's kind of like, it's kind of like, it's like that's the reason why, nobody really wants to stay because you're putting your life and your safety on the line, for a little pay. And that's where I started to see where the left is coming from, where they
mm-hmm.
say that capitalism is just legalized slavery because
Yeah.
it's kind of like you're overworked but you're underpaid, and it's kind of a lot like not only that, but there are caricatures of what you do in the movies,
Mm-hmm.
or on TV shows like The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, where there's a security guard but all he does is eat snacks all day and watch movies all day.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that's like not necessarily a very realistic portrayal of the kind of life that a lot of security guards live. Like maybe it's true for some of them. I don't know. I haven't, but um like what you're describing, that doesn't sound anything like the Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. Would never make it onto the Disney Channel.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, there are, places where, if you just, do practically nothing, they don't care. But,
Mm-hmm.
that's how some security companies keep losing the contract, because it's kind of like if you hire guards that don't really do anything, then yeah, you lose the contract, and, then, there'll be a new company, it would be like, get rid of this employee,
Mm-hmm.
or we would have a different security company and we'll get rid of you.
Mm-hmm. So you do kind of have to keep up the standards in order to meet that demand from the market for a security guard that is actively going to effectively stop a robbery. Now, in your security guard work, were you given like any sort of arm or thing that you could use to protect yourself?
No, it's unarmed security.
But in America, a lot of I don't know. There's not going to be that many thieves who are going to try to come in unarmed.
um, it's kind of like, there we do unarmed security, so it's kind of like what security guards do is run away or protect themselves.
Mm-hmm. And I'm not necessarily advocating for everyone to be given a gun, but like at the same time, how is a security guard in a country where there is a lot of gun ownership supposed to effectively act as a security guard and defend themselves when they are unarmed in horrible conditions, sleep deprived and overworked? And then along comes a burglar. Like, first of all, if you're sleep deprived and overworked, you are much less likely to notice someone.
You're right. You're right. You're right. You're absolutely right. So it's kind of a lot like, it's like why people don't really care about the job, and it has a really high turnover rates. A really, really high turnout rate over rate, because as soon as people find something else, they're like, I'm out of here.
Yeah, no, totally.
Because I mean, it's kind of a lot like horrific conditions, like cockroach infestation. It's kind of like, or it's kind of like, it's like it's kind of like, it's like a horror scene.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of a lot like our conditions, like how, ANCAPs like to make fun of Cuba or Mexico. It's kind of like
Mm-hmm.
we are just in really horrific conditions.
This is Venezuela. You should take pictures I know you like legally you can't do that, but it would be a funny thing to do hypothetically of, some horrible conditions at a workplace you went to and post them online and be like, this is Venezuela. And or on like an ANCAP Reddit and they'll be like, oh, they'll upvote it everywhere. And like, yeah, I can't believe that anyone would support this. And then you can tell them, no, this was in America at a private corporation.
Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, exactly. And there are people who have done that before, and it was like hilarious because they'll be like, "This is Venezuela," or "This is Cuba," or "This is whatever," and then the end caps like, "Yeah, yeah, these are horrible conditions." Like, nope, this is actually Detroit, or yeah.
Yeah. Ah. Anyway, the contract seen by The Age and the Sydney Morning Herald says the member will be invoiced each week for each hour worked. It totes other benefits, such as discounted rates on tires and maintenance. But VTU's Luke McCrone, what a name, says it is being used as a device to enable the plant hire group to undercut competitors who are paying tip trucks the full rate and charge customers a commission to cover their costs and margins. Companies like this one come in cheap to win the job, but then subcontract the work out to owner drivers who are then left to try and safely put a truck on the road for less and less every year. This race to the bottom has made trip truck driving one of the most dangerous jobs in Australia, he says.
Yeah, I mean, I read an article from the New York Times, but I don't really like the New York Times because they want to put everything behind a paywall. I mean, I don't do that. I would rather use an archive link and whatnot because it's like
Mm-hmm.
I ain't paying for it. But they do say that the obsession for getting everything at a cheap price is really costing Americans.
Yeah, it reminds me of that article I saw about, oh, science has become far too inaccessible, and it was behind $150 paywall.
You're gonna be kidding me.
I'm
Okay.
not. I'll show you the screenshot. I'll
Please
literally.
post a screenshot. Please post a screenshot. Like, science is becoming too inaccessible, but it's behind a 150 paywall.
Yeah,
Okay, you need to post a screenshot
I'm
because
gonna find it. Let's see if I can find it. Anyway, while I'm searching for that, you can continue reading the article.
okay, where did we leave off? Uh I guess I'll just start up here. VTU says an audit in 2020 of the major Victorian government's funded construction projects identified a number of projects failing to pay the credit rates. We believe this means that money the government has earmarked to improve safety for drivers and the community is being misappropriated, it says. In July 2020, the VTU wrote to the government outlining its findings. Fortunately, very few of our members are enjoying the benefits of these improved rates and the subsequent improvements in safety, the letter warned. The list of projects VTU identifies as possible underpayments included the Monash Freeway upgrade, stage 2 level crossing removals at 10 different locations, the Sonneberry line upgrade, and the uh, Chisholm Road Prison um, projects, or is it Chisholm? Uh, Kissam Road Prison Project.
Chisholm? I don't know. Chisholm?
Chisholm. It told the government that Plant's hire company Lank Track was failing to pay owner drivers within 30 days. This is despite being required to do so by both the owner drivers and forestry contractors at 2005 and the building and construction industry security agreements at 2020. No, not 2020. My bad. I misread that. It's 2002.
Mm.
Tip truck owner drivers typically source their jobs through a plant hiring firm, which charges a fee on top of the tip truck charge. VTU's Matt Crown says Land Truck is now paying owner drivers within 30 days. In December, the government wrote to VTU saying it had completed its own audit. They did their own audit? I mean, if they do their own audit, wouldn't that lead to? I
Couldn't they
mean,
just hide the what's going on?
hiding your own audit is suspicious because it's kind of like the FBI investigated the FBI, and the FBI found itself innocent of
I know.
wrongdoing.
We were not guilty of killing this man, so we say.
Or like the CIA investigated the CIA and found itself innocent of any wrongdoing.
Yeah, I think straight up government agencies shouldn't investigate themselves, or companies shouldn't investigate themselves. I just think you're being suspicious. It should be done by an outside party. That's the
Yeah,
only way I'm going to trust that they'll be a little bit more impartial.
yeah, because it's kind of like you clearly have a bias. I would trust it more if, I don't know, British forces, or Japanese forces, investigated the CIA, because at least it's, not a clear bias. Sure. I guess if somebody's auditing you, I guess you could always bribe at them, but still, at least, I'll still feel more comfortable if there's that outside source, looking into you, than you looking into yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, I just straight up do not trust it when people look into themselves. I think I make a mistake when I like too many things because it makes it actually hard to find the things I really, really like and just distinguish it from the things that I just kind of like. So I'm gonna keep going.
Well, have you just don't you use bookmarks?
I think I should use bookmarks more. I realize now that this was a post I should have bookmarked because it's funny and it's also relevant to our conversation.
Yeah,
Mm,
because it's kind of
yeah.
like, it's like I bookmark things that I want to find again. But what it was bad is when, like, you bookmark somebody and then their account got suspended or their account got terminated. And
Yeah,
it's like, oh man, I bookmarked you so that I could find you again, and then the account got terminated. So it's like, man.
I really have lost either way. I've done everything I can here.
In December, the government wrote VT saying it had completed its own audits of projects and found a small number of non-compliance issues which had since been addressed. I'm not surprised. This is from a government that has recently criminalized wage theft. Whatever the case, Macron says the current system of auditing jobs is woefully inadequate. You don't say! He says VTU has identified underpayments of $13 an hour on a new prisons being built in July 2020. It took until March 2021 for them to get back to us. And when they did, they failed to even look at types of trucks being underpaid, Macron says.
I
He
guess they know who
says,
can go into these newly built prisons.
yeah.
All the bosses stealing from their workers.
Yeah, you're right. But, it's kind of a lot like, I think I've already told you this before, but
Mhm.
I had to pay like a $200 fine and court cost and traffic tickets. And what was
Mm,
interesting was that the fine for speeding itself was only like $20, but
yeah.
the court cost, that's when really was
Hmm.
expensive. But it's kind of like it was a Zoom meeting though, so it's kind of like I'm paying for court costs through a SIM call. But I noticed that, for truck fit tickets, there must have been like, 48 of us, in the Zoom meeting. But it's kind of like, even though it was holding like 48 people, they were
Hmm.
like all black, you know and
Mm,
there were like only like two or three white people that got in trouble for speeding. And it's kind of like, but this states, don't say where, but this
hmm.
states is predominantly white. So if
Yeah.
this state is predominantly white, how is it that it's nearly exclusively black people getting in trouble for traffic tickets, even though you see people of all races speeding?
Well, it's clear that there's a group of people that the laws are designed for, and then there's a group of people who they aren't designed for, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Because it's kind of like the white people that get in trouble for speeding was kind of like, I don't know, like two or three people, but it's
Hmm.
like, oh, it's overwhelmingly black people, and it's like,
Yeah.
with a few of them, it's kind of like there's like a warrant out for their arrest or whatnot.
Yeah. And all of this, these charges and these fines and this unnecessary, like, oh, you even broke the law even a little, well, you're going to have to pay a bigger fine and actually come to court, as opposed to, nah, who cares? It's not really that big a deal. You know, there's so many ways, if we just kind of look at the world around us, that we can see, you know, that there is difference. And it's not that we want difference to exist by pointing it out. In fact, the way we get racism to stop, and the way we get, um, race to stop mattering, is by pointing it out in these kinds of situations. And I think that's what the skeptic movement didn't seem to get. There was this idea that if you noticed racism, you were the racist.
Yeah, that's the problem. I mean, I don't like Francesca Ramsey because I
Mhm.
mean, it's like everybody says, long time no see. It's kind of like, it's like something you don't even really think about, or it's kind of like, it's like you kind of, it's something you
Mhm.
say subconsciously. Like, hey, long
Yeah.
time no see, friend, you know.
Yeah. I never heard anyone take issue with the expression "long time no see," so that's the first I've heard of it.
Or Francesca Ramsey would be a lot like, okay, for example, I'm black. I get asked where I am from. I have asked white people, where are you from? Like there are white people, I'm like, where are you from? So, but Francesca Ramsey, like, where are you from? It's racist. Okay, but think about, okay, then I'm thinking about all the times I've asked white people, where are you from?
I mean, I think, like, there's a way that it could be. I guess I could see her point, but most of the time it's like, "Oh, I'm just really, really curious about people's background. It's interesting. It's interesting to know, people's story," right?
Yeah, because it's kind of like there would be white people with
Mhm.
really, really heavy accents. And it's kind of
Yeah.
like, okay, your accent is really heavy. It's like, where are you from? And they're like, oh, I'm from Russia. And it's like,
Yeah.
oh, you have a really heavy accent. Are you from Russia? And it's like, no, I'm from the Ukraine. Because
Oh, what is that? Ah, there, it's off. Sorry, I don't know what that was.
even white people have, accents when they're from,
Yeah.
Australia, the Ukraine, Romania.
Even within America, there's different accents.
Yeah, because America is a huge place. Like, like I was at a dentist office and I was like, where are you from? And she was like, I'm from Oklahoma, because she talked in a way that was really weird and really strange.
So, Rin, I found the screenshot, and it's even worse than I remember.
Oh, okay. Please share it.
It's not just that it's $150 to see the article. It's actually $200.
Oh, let's see.
Growing inaccessibility of science. I'm going to zoom up so it's easier for everyone to see. Oh, maybe not that much. There we go.
Newspaper, science from academia. Science is becoming inaccessible. Please pay to see full article. Oh. Oh, it's from Reddit. Oh, it's from Reddit. Science is becoming inaccessible. Please pay to see the full article. Are mildly infuriating.
Look at this. $200.
Mm, I mean, wait a minute. I need to type it out because I still can't really see it. It's still too small. Um, wait a minute. Okay, Reddit science.
If you want, I can send you the link to the article on Twitter just now or in our private chat.
Uh, I just googled it. Um, let's see. The growing inaccessibility of science. The that science has become more difficult for non-specialists to understand is a truth universally acknowledged. Here is the measure of the extent of the process, and it costs $200. $200.
Yeah, because everyone just has $200 to spend and throw away on random articles online. And that's the problem, the truth costs money. And all of these newspapers are like, oh, pay me $5, pay me $10 a month, pay me $200. And all the misinformation is free.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to spend, for the New York Times. I'm not going to do that.
Mhm.
Oh, there is a John Morden. Hi, I love your channel. Thank you, John.
Yeah,
Um,
John Morgan seems cool. Shout out to John Morgan. All
thank,
right.
thank you, John. Um, Okay, where did we leave off? He says the VTU wrote to the relevant minister responsible for implementing the minimum rates, but couldn't get a response. This is from a government that has recently criminalized wage theft. He says it is a reminder that actions speak louder than words. With the end of JobKeeper, let me go across the country. Wages will be wages will be an easy targets. When it comes to underpayments of wages, Australia has dug itself into a shocking hole. Over the years, there have been a number of inquiries into underpayments on the back of some high profile scandals. Out to the scandals and inquiries, there has been reform, including higher penalties and policing of the sector, but it seems these scandals keep on rolling as operators find new ways to game the system due to a myriad of issues, including an under-resourced regulator. There is lots to do to fix the system. If we don't, it'll be a race to the bottom. And it's kind of like back to what I was saying earlier about we were talking about them auditing themselves and find
Yeah.
themselves innocent. It's weird because it's kind of a lot like corporations don't get punished for wage theft, but
Mhm.
people at the bottom get punished for speeding.
Yeah.
Like really think about it, like really marinates on it. Like
Mhm.
I would get punished for speeding, but if you commit wage theft, nothing would happen to you.
And, you know, it reminds me of that expression that Mitt Romney had. Corporations are people, my friend, because everything that goes to corporations eventually goes to people. Well, I mean, if corporations were people, they would be some of the worst, like, monsters that you could ever imagine. But they never seem to get treated like people. I've never heard of a corporation being sent to jail. Um, and even the people behind it, usually these executives, some of them, to be fair, have been jailed, some of the worst ones, but usually they're able to pay their bail. They're going to get out in a year or two for good behavior, and they get right back to where they left off with their illicit gains, sometimes often untouched.
Yeah, I agree with you. Did you still wanted to read the article about America?
Of course.
Okay, let me use screen share, and this is gonna take a while because this is StreamYard and not Google.
The magic of StreamYard, powered by StreamYard. This StreamYard stream is StreamYard in blah, blah.
Companies claim there's a a shortage. Their solution: prisoners.
Ugh.
Worker advocates say prison labor programs exploit workers' new shifts, with few options as bosses refuse to raise wages to attract employees. Some employers around the U.S. are responding to perceived worker shortages in their industries by pursuing cheap resources of labor, such as people currently or formerly in prison. During a recent industry conference, a waste management services executive discussed hiring immigrants to fill commercial driver's license positions, and other executives suggested using prison work. I mean,
Ugh.
this is cartoonish level evil.
What if they didn't have a choice to work for us? And then they just kind of like laugh maniacally. Like, this is something I can imagine out of like Evil Inc., you know?
Mm, I never heard of Evil Inc.
Oh, it's from what's it called? A it Have you ever heard of Dr. Evil? He
Yes, Doctor Evil. Oh, you mean from Doctor Evil Dead, Austin Powers.
Austin Powers, yeah, his company is Evil Inc.
Oh, I forgot that.
It's okay.
And other executives suggested using prison work or work release programs to address perceived labor shortages in the sanitation, waste, and recycling industry. Um, co- um, Campaigners say that the move would be exploitative and reflect a refusal to simply raise wages to attract employees. It's talk about immigrants labor, prison labor. It's all about exploitation. I mean, it's I
Yeah.
mean, I don't know why anybody would want to come to America. I mean, nothing else says Chuck Styles, director of the Teamsters Solid Waste and Recycling Division, which represents about 300 no 32,000 workers in the private waste industry. There is no drivers shortage. There is a huge wage and benefit shortage. Amen to that.
Yeah.
That that these waste companies refuse to give up anything on the bottom line. Yeah, I mean,
Mhm.
so many jobs are like that. Staff said several prison work release programs targeted by the waste industry failed to provide decent wages and benefits in an industry where workers face significant safety risks, poor weather conditions. Um, Security guards go through the exact same thing. The
Mhm.
safety risks, poor weather conditions. Like when I had a job that wanted me to go through 4 tornadoes just to get to
Yeah.
work. Long hours. I've worked 15-hour days. I've
Yeah.
worked for 15 hours doing security work. And scarce time off for holidays. There is no time off for holidays in
Yeah, like,
security.
there may be this article is maybe presenting the situation as a little bit better than it actually is. Scarce. What time off?
Yeah, but time off. Employers and industry groups have claimed labor shortages were stifling recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic, with U.S. Chamber of Commerce and Republican governors blaming unemployment benefits. What benefits? Some um, 26 states have canceled federal extended unemployment benefits early, though have noted the available jobs recovery data shows there is no economy-wide labor shortage. Oh,
So I think what the whole labor shortage thing is that people are refusing to work for terrible bosses.
yeah, that's what I think too. Can you give me a moment?
Of course.
You could read the article while I'm away.
I will be more than happy to. That hasn't stopped employers and business groups from using perceived labor shortages as a pretext to seek out cheap labor sources. Employers are hiring teenagers to fill open jobs, automating some job roles to avoid raising wages, lobbying Congress to double the cap on work immigration visas, and expanding the use of prison labor. The restaurant industry in Michigan, Texas, Ohio, and Delaware recently announced a work prison release program for food service and hospitality industry. In April, Russell Stover candy production facilities in Iola and Abilene, Kansas, began using prison labor through the Topeka Correctional Facility in response to staffing issues disrupting production lines. About 150 prisoners worked at the plant, making $14 an hour with no benefits or paid time off, while other workers started at higher wages with benefits and paid time off. Kansas also deducts 25% of the prisoners' pay for room and board, and another 5% goes towards a victim fund. The prisoners must pay for gas for the nearly 2 hour bus ride to and from the plant. What in the neoliberal hell?
Hello, I'm back.
So get this. Um, Not only are the prisoners being made to work, but the state is taking 30% of what they make and also making them pay for the gas to the bus that they are using to get to work.
Okay, wait a minute. I was in the bedroom, so it's kind of like there has to stop employees, businesses, groups and proceed labor shortages, cheap labor sources. Employees are hiring. Yeah, I do know that employers do hire teenagers to fill open jobs,
Mm-hmm.
automating some job roles to avoid raising wages. Um, Lobbying Congress to double the cap on worker immigration visas and expanded the use of prison labor. Yeah, I mean, uh, uh, the cap on immigration visas. I mean, it's kind of like immigrants. I mean, like we read in the other article, 10 cents per garment.
Yeah.
10 cents per garment. I mean, the only thing that they see immigrants as is cheap labor. They use immigrants to get away with slave labor. So it's kind
Yeah.
of like it no longer sounds woke and progressive when Californians are like, we want open borders, because
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of like, okay, that's where the worst wage theft is happening. The only reason why you want open borders is for slavery.
Yeah.
And
And
whenever people are supporting of open borders, they're basically supporting the modern day slave trade. Like when you say that you support open borders, what you're really saying is that you're supporting the modern day version of the slave trade.
I think like there is a good or a better way to go about. I don't mind immigration, but the thing is with immigration nowadays is that it's not immigration because you want to provide opportunities for people. It's immigration because you want to exploit others cheaply and not have to treat workers at home decently, you know? Um, and I think that having this huge group of people that are undocumented and have no protection that you can just expel is another problem. And they're like, oh, well, you want to unionize? Fine. Well, I'll get someone from Guatemala who's a refugee and they have no other options and they'll absolutely have to work for me for literally nothing or I'll deport them. You know? Yeah, that is really gross. And I think that you are onto something, that there is like a there is a right-wing tinge to some open borders arguments. Like, remember the Mises Institute? They're so pro open borders. Or reason.com, same thing. Right libertarians actually love open borders because it provides those business owners with a fresh pool of people that are much more easy to exploit who might not be familiar with American labor laws.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. They just take advantage that you're not familiar with American labor laws. So it's really just, you're basically supporting the modern day slave trade. Like when you say I want open borders, you're basically saying that you support, the slave trade. So it's kind of like I would think that for their own good, I mean, either that they by assimilate, at least at the very bare minimum, learn to speak the language fluently so that
Mm-hmm.
they could more easily get help that they need, and then for them to know that their rights, that's
Yeah.
what I think though.
I do think that like ease of communication is an important thing when you're moving to another country. And well, I think that, there should be some like there's some situations like if you're a refugee or something where that's not going to be a possibility for everyone. That's unfortunate. And you have to like really watch out for those kinds of people because like, okay, that's pretty easy to take advantage of them. And that's why, at least in Canada, we do a citizenship test and you need to be able to speak one of our two national languages, which is French or English if you want to immigrate. That gets you points. And you probably won't be given an immigration visa and becoming a full-time Canadian citizen if you can't speak one of those languages because of things like this. You'll just get exploited if you don't.
Yeah, I think that it should be mandatory that you speak English in America because that's the language that most Americans speak. And I mean, not only that, but I mean, I do think that we read an article where somebody was from, what was it? Ethiopia, and you
Mm-hmm.
can't say that a lot of, and there's language that neither one of us knew existed. So
Yeah.
it's like you can't expect Americans to know every language from all over the world. It's kind of like English is definitely the dominant language spoken here,
Mm-hmm.
regardless if it's an official language or not. It's the language that every or most Americans speak. So I do think that
Yeah.
assimilation is good for the ease of communication so that you could get the help that you need.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't necessarily like think that official languages are needed, but I think at least majority languages, it's definitely useful for communication. Anyway, Brandolyn Parks, president of the Kansas Coalition for Sentence and Prison Reform, said these programs can be beneficial for prisoners, but often are a way for employers and the prison system to take advantage of a vulnerable population while driving down wages and taking jobs from other workers in the community. She noted many private companies that hire prison workers will not employ them after they are released, will not hire job applicants with criminal records. She added that these programs perpetuate mass incarceration. Whenever we have private industries coming into Kansas Department of Corrections, they sign a contract guaranteeing a certain number of people will be working there, said Parks. That means there will be a certain number of people incarcerated, so we're not working to lower the prison population, but instead building the prison industrial complex as a working machine where people become numbers. And we need a certain amount of numbers to keep them employed to uphold the contracts. Isn't that so crazy? Like, oh, we don't have enough slaves. Are you sure that you're even worth doing business with anymore? Like, what is something is seriously wrong with Kansas.
Something gets wrong with America, or I
Yeah.
mean, this crap happens in Australia. I mean, there
Hmm.
is,
It's probably happening in Canada too. I mean, I don't know. I think private prisons are illegal in Canada, but I'll have to double check.
Parts argued employees refusing to pay living wages is the primary factor driving perceived labor shortages. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to name which states I'm from, But even though I would like to keep the states from private, I do think that there's a problem with, it's probably happening in every state, where, or at least it's probably happening in many states where employers are refusing to pay living wages. And
Hmm.
the special prison workforce programs are not good fit after to solve the problem. Harm people who are at their lowest in life and then throwing them into crimes is despicable.
Yep.
Amen.
Yeah. I like this, Parks. The contract guaranteeing this amount of people makes it difficult to release people because they're making the Department of Corrections money. So the DOC and private industry wins, and they try to make it appear as though the incarcerated win when they're really being taken advantage of. Even before the pandemic, the construction industry targeted prison labor sources amid what employers have claimed is a severe construction labor shortage that has only worsened under COVID-19. Construction is also one of the industries where significant numbers of formerly incarcerated people find work. In New York City, construction industry employers recruit recently released prisoners who must seek and maintain employment as a condition of their release from prison. Thousands of workers in New York City are siphoned from prison into low paying construction jobs with no benefits, no health insurance, and unsafe working conditions. These job sites, known as body shops, use subcontractors so that employers can offload risk insurance liability. The practice has been spreading, but New York City Council is considering legislation to regulate these employers. Throughout the pandemic, body shop laborers left their homes and took trains and buses to crowded job sites, building the NYC skyline. They did this without health insurance, without an economic safety net, and without constant threat of re-imprisonment if they refused to continue to work, said Chaz Renkaiwazik, vice president and director of the Organizing for Construction and General Building Laborers Local 79. Isn't that a mouthful? While other workers were called heroes for working during the pandemic, body shop workers are told that their criminal justice history sentences them to a lifetime of hard labor with negligible reward.
Man, that makes me feel like crying. Like, that makes me feel like crying because, basically, the prison system is legalized slavery.
Mm-hmm. And it's in the Constitution. You cannot force people to work without pay except in prison.
Yeah, that was what Kanye yes was complaining about. Like I know that people were giving Kanye West a hard time when he was complaining about, I believe it was the 17th Amendment, and it's like, oh man, Kanye West, it's a hates the 17th Amendment, and then they wanted to be like the smart liberal and want to be like,
Mhm.
but that's against slavery. But it's kind of like no, it's like against slavery except with prison labor. Like there's that little caveats that
Mhm.
prisoners can be legalized. They could be treated like slaves.
Yeah, and I really think that it should be uncontroversial that no one deserves to be treated like a slave. It goes against everything America claims to stand for in terms of being the land of the free. How can you be a land of the free when you have the most people in jail working as slaves?
Yeah, you're right. Let me read this paragraph because I was in I was away while you were reading this
Sure.
about 150 persons work at the plant making 14 an hour with no benefits. They get paid more than me. 14 an hour with no benefits. They get paid more than me, and I also get no benefits.
Well, yeah,
There are no
keep going.
benefits.
This is where it starts to get a little messed up.
Um, while other workers start at higher wages with no benefits and paid time off. Oh, that is horrible. Kansas also does 25% of persons pay for room and board, and other 5% go to victims fund. Only 5% goes to the victims. Only
But
5%.
the state takes all of that amount.
Oh man, the person must also pay for gas and nearly and for a nearly 2 hour bus ride for to and from the plane. That is just messed up. That's, that is just really, really, really messed up. It's like,
Mhm.
it's like I still, like one of the things where I would still agree with the end caps is that I hate the government, but where we separate, where we deviate is that I also take an issue with corporations.
Yeah, I don't like the government either, but like government and corporations work together. They're
Exactly. Oh my goodness. Exactly. Like, it's kind of like I don't like the government, but I also don't like, corporations or private companies.
mhm. Like there's always this false dichotomy. Oh, you want the government to do it or do you want corporations to do it? Why can't it be workers themselves owning it? You
Yeah,
know?
because it's kind of like, it's kind of like, okay, think about when Barack Obama bailed out the banks, what about
Yeah.
the big bank bailout? Or it's kind
Mhm.
of like there is, okay, we run out of time. I think so because I think that you said that you have until 10:30, and is it 10:30 now in
No, no, no,
Canada?
it's not 10:30 here, it's 9:26. So we're
19.
good to go for a little bit longer.
Yeah, because it's kind of like there is this thing that uh it describes the differences between the Biden presidency and the Trump presidency because Biden did do one thing that it's from the New York Post about Biden. I may have to just go through my history
Yeah.
because it didn't automatically pop up. But it's kind of like Biden did actually did one thing that I actually did think is like really, really. I need to go to my complete history, but
All right.
I do know it was by the New York Post, and I do know
Yeah.
it was talk about Joe Biden. But it's like, wow, this is actually like a really good thing because it's kind of like, excuse me, Canada Playboy bikini. I wonder what happened. I no longer see it. I don't know what happened to it. It's not in my history. Because I am like looking at the complete history, but I don't see it at all. But okay, wait a minute. Maybe I should just Google search New York Post Biden. It probably won't show up, but it wouldn't hurt. Well, okay, I don't see it at all, but I do know that it was talking about like Joe Biden, and he had this like policy that I actually agreed with, and I was like, "What? Biden did that?" Because it was saying that when Trump, okay, when it comes to wage theft. When it comes to wage theft, Trump didn't punish corporations for wage theft. Like so, if you committed wage theft, you kept your job under Trump, and Trump wouldn't punish you. But with Joe Biden, if you were an undocumented immigrant, and if you were to snitch on your employer, Joe Biden would Joe Biden, instead of punishing you, he would
Mhm.
punish your employer. Wait a minute, maybe I could just type in Joe Biden immigrants. um
Okay. Yeah. So I know how difficult it can be to sometimes track down what I'm looking for.
Yeah, I mean, because I guess it's Google that saves everything, and I think that with Opera to protect your privacy, if you read an article, and if you haven't read that article in a certain amount of time, it automatically deletes, an article from your search history. Like, I guess it automatically purges old articles from your history because no, I mean, now I can't find it.
Mhm.
But I do remember what it says though. I do remember it says that, if um wage theft. How about that? I do recall that it says that the difference between Joe Biden and Donald Trump is that Donald Trump, if you like were if you were hiring undocumented immigrants and
Hmm.
you weren't paying them, Donald Trump would, you would still keep your company and you would still keep doing what you're doing. But with Joe Biden, he the immigrant could, stay in America, but the person who runs the company would get. I know. I talked about it on Twitter. Maybe I could use Twitter
Yeah,
search
maybe search for it that
advanced.
way.
Yeah, because it did bring it up on Twitter, so maybe I could go through my own tweets. Um, I just need to remember what I said. I mean, do you want to say anything while I look for it?
Sure. I guess I can say some things. Um, Well, I mean, I think it's good that, because I think the immigrant is the victim in this situation, that they don't get deported, but rather that the corporation who's exploiting them gets the consequences. Because that also sends a lesson to the corporation. Okay, if I'm going to exploit immigrants, this isn't going to work out for me. Where if we punish the immigrants and not the corporation, that sends the message that, okay, using deportation to scare migrant workers is something I can actually do and get away with. Oh, great.
Yeah, I found it. Um, okay, I would do screen share again. Um, because that was the one time, that's the one policy he did that was like, Joe Biden isn't that bad. I love Joe Biden at this point. It is
Mm.
DHS floats idea to shield illegal immigrants who writes out employers' reports.
Yeah, they should do this.
The Biden administration is mulling a proposal to shield illegal immigrants from deportation if they dime out an employer who hires them for exploitative rates, according to a report. Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Alejandro included the idea in a note to Immigration and Customs Enforcement Director Tay Johnson on Tuesday, targeting employers who hire illegal immigrants rather than illegal immigrants themselves. Um, yeah, you should target the employers who
Mhm.
hire them as opposed to the immigrants themselves. The memo calls on Johnson and other immigration officials. Not only that, but there's a good chance that those employers who, hire illegal immigrants, go around on Twitter saying, we want open borders. We love undocumented workers. We love them so much. But the only reason you love them is because you're paying them only 10 cents.
Mhm. To buy those Gucci bags.
Mm-hmm. Uh, DHQ cuts out the demand for hiring illegal immigrants by aggressively pursuing unscrupulous employers who take advantage of the illegal workers by paying them low wages. Yeah, because it's like the only reason, it's up there with the Pride bench, but it's an anti-homeless bench. What they did
Mhm.
is that New York, like the major cities. They
Yeah.
have an issue with homeless people. So, because it's kind of like they don't like, they think that, it's bad optics to have
Mhm.
homeless people, and the homeless people enjoy sleeping on benches. So what it did is, put a pride flag on it and rails on it and be like, this is, a diversity bench.
Yeah. Or remember the accessible anti-homelessness bench for the wheelchair user?
Yeah, for the wheelchair users, like, oh, this is, a bench for people who use a wheelchair, and it's kind of like you're already sitting down when
You don't really need it.
you don't even need it because you're already sitting down.
Yeah, I'm very, very much against anti-homelessness measures, unless that anti-homelessness measure is, I don't know, giving them housing, making them not homeless anymore.
Yeah, I agree with you. The DHS secretary said that the hiring of illegal immigrants leads to an unfair labor market because people authorized to work will have a more difficult time finding jobs that pay decent wages. Exactly, exactly. It's kind of like, I am having that problem right now finding, a job that will pay me a decent wage.
Mhm.
That's the problem. The message is exploitative employers should beware. Mayor Kaz told the Journal. He said businesses that employ illegal immigrants but pay them a fair wage and offer safe working conditions won't be a priority for enforcement. Yeah, I agree with them. Like, if you are, an illegal immigrant, but you get paid exactly as much as an American would get paid, uh, you know what? I don't care. It's like,
Mhm.
it's swim for everybody. I don't care. Um,
Yeah. The real issue is, of course, when is the employer. It's the common enemy here.
yeah.
Exploitative bosses. All right, it seems like I am going to have to go, Rin, but I really did enjoy this stream, and I think we were able to cover a lot of ground in the time we had.
Yeah, this was a lot of fun. This
Mhm.
was a lot of fun. You are, a very fun and pleasant person. You have, an excellent sense of humor. You are a good addition to my live streams because you are a breath of fresh air.
Aw, thank you so much, Rin. I really like coming on them too. I love hearing your perspective. And you always find the most interesting news stories, or in this case, I suppose it was someone else found this interesting news story. And and your audience, it presents me to different perspectives that I hadn't encountered before. And I think that, that's kind of more of what this world needs.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me on. I had a blast.
Oh, is there any projects you want to talk about?
Um, any projects I want to talk about?
Yeah, anything you're
Um,
working on that you want to chill out?
what I want to shill out, I am actually starting a Discord soon, so I'll post that to my Twitter. So if anyone wants to check me out on Twitter, I'm going to be starting a Discord. I'm going to be using it to help homelessness in my current community. Um, so if anyone's interested on doing that and actually translating some of these ideas that we've talked about on stream into real life, yeah, hit me up. The server's opens soon.
All right, thank you for watching.
Thank you for watching, everyone. Ta ta for
Bye.
now. Bye.